I love how Eggman Nega is just watching these puppets dance just as predictably as he wants. Now we know there was more than one reason to reveal one of his secrets to each character. It would throw them into a mad scramble to understand everything, like they are right now. So his cocky comment is well deserved. He's playing Silver and Shadow right now. This scene is also important because of what Silver says about Eggman Nega's speech and mannerisms. Any differences between Robotnik and Eggman Nega that the characters can come up with are fantastic for us to know because it makes them feel less and less like one character in two separate bodies. Then we have a less fruitful scene for Eggman Nega when Sonic comes in.
Damn. You.
Yes! Sonic! Huh.
What? Damn.
Huh.
You.
Yay! Tails has been rescued. Thank goodness. He's so vital to the plot and an essential character to this game. What would we do without the almighty and powerful Tails? He literally does nothing the entire game. But seriously, there's not much to say about this scene for Eggman Nega. Sonic managed to get a leg up on him this time. End of scene. Let's move on.
You.
Huh.
Metal Sonic challenges are brought back, meaning Eggman Nega has resumed the identity confrontations for the characters. Only this time, things get pretty deep pretty quick. During these battles, Eggman Nega is essentially forming a symbolic situation where Metal Sonic represents him and the four protagonists represent his originator, Dr. Robotnik. These battles are more than him trying to beat them. They are about proving to himself that a copy can be better than the original. That someone whose identity is solely dependent on someone else can flip the script and take hold of their own identity, while the original can be the one in crisis. So when Sonic says, "What, that lame robot copy of yours again?" Eggman Nega is taking this as an insult directed at him, personally. Eggman Nega could be seen as a lame copy, considering the perilous minefield of cloning, the vast, unknowable complications it brings, but I'll get into that later. Eggman Nega could be seen as someone that needs to be replaced with someone better or discarded altogether. The clone complex working in the classical sense, a clone will always have replacement on their mind, whether they need to replace the original or if the original needs to replace them or another clone replacing them. Replacement and discardment is a staple of the clone complex. Eerily, Nega states that the previous Metal Sonic was able to capture data, and I've already updated this new model with that data. And this time, it's you who's going to get sent to the junkyard. All of these lines indicate a reaction to the previous Metal Sonic battles. Nega replaced the losing Metal Sonic with a brand new model. He didn't fix the old one. He didn't try to update the old one. He got rid of it. And the Junkyard comment just confirms how little he thinks of Metal Sonic. Now, if we remember the symbolism, Metal Sonic is Eggman Nega. Nega must feel that if he was to lose to Robotnik, he himself should be replaced and discarded. Eggman Nega's self-worth is dependent on if he can surpass the original Dr. Robotnik. If he can't, he doesn't believe he deserves to live. And wow, that's pretty dark. And it's about to get even darker.
Ha!
This line, right here, has got to be one of the hardest hitting, poignant lines for Eggman Nega's character. Through symbolism, Sonic is blatantly revealing one of the core principles of Eggman Nega. This, coupled with Metal Sonic's second defeat, confirms in himself the lifelong struggle he's been dealing with. A copy is just a copy. It'll never be able to top the original. I'm so disappointed that we don't get to see a reaction to this comment, because it just had to have hurt him right to the core. Like, oh my god! All of what he's done, all of what he's gone through, all of the unmentioned suffering and pain and agony is reduced to nothing due to this one simple line. This little comment has pulled the cover off of Eggman Nega. His life, one of his two main goals, the very reason he believed he existed, is really just meaningless. And now Sonic has struck a chord with Eggman Nega in a way that no one ever has or ever will again. Sonic has unknowingly pushed him further into a position where his real life's ambition makes even more sense. But we'll get into that later. This is Shadow's first introduction to Eggman Nega. Keep in mind Shadow's relationship with the Robotniks. He's basically an extended family member. So his reaction to Eggman Nega's reveal is actually believable. To the audience it isn't, but sometimes we have to step into the character's shoes to get the right perspective. Also, this exchange of Shadow and Eggman Nega is weird. Why would he say, of course he looks just like Robotnik because he's a descendant of Robotnik? That doesn't just happen. Moreover, how is he a descendant of Robotnik? Again, the question is proposed, who could have possibly bred with Robotnik to create descendants in the first place? I'm using this exchange as proof that Eggman Nega is indeed a clone, simply because it doesn't make sense any other way. Yes, I realize that Gerald Robotnik and Ivo Robotnik look alike, but you have to remember, Gerald had two different designs. In Adventure 2, he looked related to Ivo, but not a direct mirror image of him. He was skinny with a more evenly proportioned normal physique. In Adventure 2 Battle, they kept this design, unlike Sonic in Adventure and Adventure DX. They could have updated his character model, but they didn't, which leads me to believe that this was a deliberate decision. The only other game he's physically seen in is Shadow the Hedgehog, which was a travesty that most people ignore anyway, so I'm led to believe that the Adventure 2 design is Gerald's true design, meaning the Robotnik family males do not look like exact replicas of Ivo Robotnik. So knowing that, what's the only other explanation for Eggman Nega? And just think about it. His name is identical to Robotnik's nickname. If he was a normal, all-natural human bred from standard means, why would his parents name him Eggman Nega? Where's the logic? That's not even Dr. Robotnik's real name. Eggman is a nickname. It's an insulting nickname, actually, which would make the likelihood of his parents naming him this even more improbable. So all of this is further evidence that points to him being a clone, while we have zero evidence supporting the regular old descendant argument. So can we just all agree he's a clone now? Okay? Okay. Now the next point would be, well, why did he say he was a descendant of Eggman instead of his clone from the future? Well, remember his reason for lying about being the alternate dimension counterpart of Robotnik? Remember his reason for dressing up as Robotnik for the better part of this game? Remember the symbolism between himself and Metal Sonic, and how he discarded the robot after failing him? The reason is just another part of the clone complex, rearing its ugly head. Clones hate themselves. They hate their existence. They lament it. They fall into madness over the concept. The reason he keeps lying about his identity is because who he truly is isn't someone he likes. He's a liar by nature, and the clone complex is a main driving force for everything he does. Nega then says, now that I've told you the truth, I'll have to dispose of you, which is just more manipulation. Think of it this way. If you're trying to hide something from someone who refuses to stop looking for the truth, what's the best way to get them to stop? Well, the best way to throw them off your trail is to give them a lesser secret to discover. It's what Dexter did in the Showtime show Dexter.
Wait. First you tell me that you acted on impulse, and then you tell me that you stole the drugs from your police station? I mean, what are you trying to say? That you planned on acting on impulse?
Yeah, it's all kind of jumbled now.
How did you know how to cook the heroin? How did you know what dose to give a big guy like Paul? Oh my god. Oh my god, why didn't I see this? But they were your drugs. Now it makes sense. That's where you disappear to at all hours of the night, like Clark fucking Kent. Like, if there is anything left between us, you will answer me this one question, and you will tell me the truth. Are you an addict?
Yes, I have an addiction.
Dexter. That's good. That's the first step. Admitting you have a problem. We'll get you into a program. We'll get you the help you need. And I will be there for you.
Yeah, Dexter is actually a serial killer who has a psychological hunger for blood. He literally will go through some sort of withdrawal if he doesn't kill someone for a long period of time. The incriminating lie of being a drug addict frees him from Rita's further prying. In fact, she never really brings up him hiding a dark secret again. So that's what's happening with this line. Eggman Nega has to sell this lie to Shadow so he can buy it and not think twice about looking further. Because Nega is telling him he has the truth, he doesn't go looking for any more truth. I'm really digging the manipulation showcase for Eggman Nega in this game. It's top notch. After Shadow fights Metal Sonic, it's Silver's turn. Not much to say here, other than the banter between Silver and Nega is reminiscent of Sonic and Robotnik's banter. albeit Silver and Nega are a lot less silly and whimsical with their dialogue, which I appreciate. I don't like how the writers make Eggman Nega explain what he's doing with Metal Sonic being a diversion so he can get away, though. We know Eggman Nega at this point. We already know that's what's going to happen. Don't beat us over the head with that, just do it. Back with Sonic and Tails, we see this scene.
You!
The subtext here confirms the Metal Sonic and Eggman Nega symbolism earlier, with Eggman Nega and Metal Sonic attacking Sonic directly in unison, and Sonic saying, "Makes no difference to me." The subtext also hits Eggman Nega's core once again, the original facing off against two powerful clones, and still Sonic says it makes no difference. As if to say, even if you were twice as strong or twice as smart as you are right now, it doesn't make a difference. A copy is still just a copy. It will never be able to top the original. No matter how much it improves itself, no matter how much it grows, no matter what it does, the copy will never be anything but less than the original. Sonic is unwittingly destroying Eggman Nega's soul with his lines, and I love it. After Sonic, we've got Shadow.
What? Well, well.
Again, Shadow's reactions are understandable. Eggman Nega never told Shadow he was from the future before this moment. But there was a clue in their previous scene. Eggman Nega says he is a descendant of Robotnik. An odd choice of words if he belongs in this time period. The other odd thing is his age. He looks either Robotnik's exact age or even older, which would mean that Shadow would have known about him before now if he was from the present time. But still, the idea of a family member coming back from the future is pretty unbelievable. Then again, Shadow has seen this guy turn things into cards using a weird camera, and I assume that he overheard Silver one of those times talking about the camera itself not belonging in this time period. If not, well, he should realize that something that bizarre shouldn't be real in this timeline, so. Eggman Nega's line, "I cannot lose. If I lose now, I won't be able to change the future," is important to his entire plan, so keep that in mind for later. Silver's scene is inconsequential, so let's go back to Sonic for the aftermath of their battle.
You! I! You! Dead. Hey! Dead. Hey!
Sonic!
Yes! All right!
Now he's revealed his plan. From the very beginning, this was his endgame, to turn the world into a card. But the fact that he's still in his Robotnik disguise is interesting. It shows us the extent that Eggman Nega wants to feel real like Robotnik. Silver and Shadow already know who he is, so the disguise is even more useless than before. But he keeps it on to have Sonic and Knuckles continue to identify him as Dr. Robotnik. It's a desperate move for him to make, and it kind of makes me feel for the guy. More writing incompetence for these lines. You've just made me very, very angry. Does either Dr. Robotnik or Eggman Nega talk like this? I mean, seriously. This is way out of character for both of those characters. Then he says, "Fine then, I'll use this camera to turn the whole planet into a card," as if the previous statement justifies this one, which will justify his following actions. I mean, this is bad writing, of course, But I feel like the idea they were trying to convey was Eggman Nega fainting rage and manipulating them to follow him into space. That's still bad writing, but I think that's what they were going for, because the next line seems to be like schoolyard bait talk. You can just sit back and watch. Like, that's basically a backhand version of daring someone to stop you. This part is just weird, but I'm glad his plan is completely out in the open now. And for Shadow and Silver's part, the lines are just recycled, so whoopee for actually trying, rival writers. Way to go. But this part is hilarious to me.
What? That's right. Shadow. Let's go.
It's so random that he's free now. Like, can we at least get a scene like the scene of Sonic freeing Tails from his card form? That would not have been hard to add in. It would have taken like less than a minute of effort to write in. But no, sudden Robotnik appearance is sudden. Then the rest of it is basically, yo, you need a ride, bro? Yeah, I'm trying to get to space. For reals? That's where I'm headed, dog. Shut the noise, bros. I'm totally headed that way too. For reals? Show enough for reals. Hey, yo, hop in, homies. Let's ride, son. Then we have this build up to the final boss battle where everyone has suddenly realized they should work together to stop the same bad guy instead of competing to stop the same bad guy. Now it's final boss time. Before I go and glean whatever pertinent information from the scene, I wanted to be clear that since all the characters have decided to band together, these scenes are happening at the same time. And ignoring Knuckles and Sonic's scenes, which add nothing to anything, Shadow and Silver's scenes help us look into Eggman Nega's ambitions and goals.
What? Well, well. You. You. Eggman Nega. Well, well. What? Eggman Nega.
Interesting goal, huh? Let me tell you why it's a lie. He speaks about the long line of brilliant scientists that his lineage is made up of, and how the original Robotnik was a blemish on that lineage. As a result, he has been denied his destiny to take his rightful place with that lineage, because the world refuses to recognize his brilliance. But then he says by removing Robotnik from the world, he can alter his family history so that he can continue the long line of brilliant scientists. But then he's quick to tell Silver if he can't change the future, he'll simply destroy it. So he seems to have two very different trains of thought. On the one hand, he wants to just restore glory to the Robotnik family. But by doing so, he will be killing himself, leaving no one of the Robotnik family, and ending the lineage with the original Robotnik. So, yeah. On the other hand, he states that if he can't change his future, he's fine with destroying it altogether, which also seems like a lose-lose situation. Now, as I stated before, Nega is a liar through and through. He lies about everything, basically all the time, and basically to everyone, including himself. So one of these goals has to be a lie, and the other could be the truth, but it could also be a lie, who knows. If he truly wanted to undo what Robotnik had done to the family name so that he could return to the future and be praised as a brilliant genius, then he would have simply cloned Robotnik, made sure that clone wasn't indoctrinated to be an evil genius, turned the original Robotnik into a card, and went back to the future to reap the benefits. But he instead talks about literally erasing him. That means he's gonna kill the guy, which would result in him never existing. This one is the lie. He doesn't care about restoring his family lineage. It just doesn't make sense. Eggman Nega isn't the type to care about glory, especially if it pertains to anyone other than himself. Besides, his problem isn't the fact that no one appreciates his genius. No one is ever going to appreciate an evil genius. Gerald was only appreciated because for the vast majority of his life he was a good genius who worked to help mankind. And once he went insane, people no longer appreciated him because, hello, he tried to kill everyone! No matter what the original Robotnik does, Eggman Nega isn't going to be appreciated for being an evil genius. And he knows this. It's obvious. So then, ruling that out, what's his real plan? Well, he's always hinted at what he wants. Ever since his first appearance in Sonic Rush, he seems to truly want to destroy the world. And in this game, he tries to make that happen. He turns a bunch of stuff and people into cards because the cards can be turned into energy, which fuels the special giant camera on his spaceship. Which can only mean that from the beginning, he was planning on turning the planet into a card. Otherwise, how/why does this massive global threat of a weapon exist? Why bring it to the current timeline if you weren't gonna use it? So the plan to destroy the world is his ultimate goal. But again, the question is why? Well, what's his reason for doing anything else? Answer, clone complex. Now get ready because we are going even deeper than before with this. It's not going to be pretty, you guys. The reason that Dr. Robotnik will eventually create a clone in the first place is to continue his legacy for when his life expires. So let's plot this out. If he makes a fully functioning clone at the end of his life, which can only be maybe 50 to 60 years into the future from the present, which is me being very generous, then that clone's lifespan, even if it's a perfect clone, would have a smaller lifespan. But hey, I'll be generous and give him 40 to 50 years. That's 90 to 110 years into the future. We're not to Eggman Nega's time yet. So the only way for the lineage to continue and for Eggman Nega to exist is if the clone made a clone of himself. Now, I don't know if you all are aware, but whenever a clone is made, if that first clone makes a clone of itself, that new second clone will be even more messed up than the last one. TV Tropes has this to say about it, and I'm actually quoting it now. This trope, clone degeneration, does have some grounding in real life. Cloning isn't a fully documented science yet, and genetic kinks in the cloning process, such as shortened telomeres and genomic imprinting, remain factors that may lead to clones having shorter life expectancies than their originals. Clones of clones tend to be even worse off. Basically, whatever chance the clone has of being perfect, or at least stable, the clone of that first clone will have that chance cut in half, or even less than that. So, okay, we have original Dr. Robotnik, who has 100% chance of being stable because he's a real person. Then he clones himself, making clone number 1, who has less of a chance at being a stable entity with the lifespan we already gave him. Let's be generous and say 80% chance of stability. Then clone number 1 clones himself, making clone number 2, who has about half of clone number 1's percentage to be stable and half his lifespan. So 40% and 30 to 40 years. Now we're only 120 to 150 years into the future, which is still not enough time. So clone number 2, who already had it bad, clones himself, doubling the disaster for the newest clone, clone number 3. Clone number 3's best case scenario is a stability percentage of 20% and a lifespan of 20 to 30 years. That means we're 140 to 180 years into the future, which means we're still not up to Eggman Nega's time period. So let's add another clone, clone number 4, with a stability percentage of 10% and a lifespan of 10 to 20 years, which brings us to 150 to 200 years in the future. This doesn't mean we've reached Eggman Nega yet, though. It doesn't say he came into existence exactly 200 years in the future. It says he is from approximately 200 years in the future, meaning this clone, who already has next to no shot of surviving to the 200-year mark, most likely clones himself a few years before the 200-year mark that Eggman Nega exists in. So we end up with clone number 5, with a stability percentage of 5% and a lifespan of 1 to 10 years. This is Eggman Nega's best case scenario. He's a multi-generational clone with 5% of a chance at being stable enough to survive. But looking at him now, we all can see that he fell in the overwhelming 95% of instability. Plus, he's only got 10 years at max to live. How can he not have identity issues? Again, this is his best case scenario, where everything is running smoothly and according to plan at every moment in the approximate 200 years leading up to his creation, which is an impossibility already. Then when you add in the line of work these Robotnik clones would undoubtedly be in, thanks to their original's desires, the inherent risks could cut the lives of many of those clones short, meaning that the originally 5 clones of Dr. Robotnik would be doubled, maybe even tripled, in a more probable sense to continue the lineage. And adding to that, the most important thing to remember is the world Eggman Nega comes from. The fact that the future Eggman Nega comes from is Silver's future should already have your mind going to an even darker place. The future that is always inevitably dystopian. No matter how many atrocities and godlike monsters are defeated in the past, that future is the one he's created in. A devastated, burning wasteland of pain and suffering. This world without hope, a world where everyone is basically powerless, a world of endless pain. He probably works on time travel and confirming the alternate dimension theory just to escape this future. And yes, I am aware that Sonic 06's events were technically undone by the extinguishing of the Flames of Hope. But as I said before, the Sonic series works on the multiverse and alternate timeline principles. Multiverse is all about alternate dimensions, parallel worlds, what have you, that exist alongside the current universe. The proof of this is Blaze's dimension. She is said to live in a parallel world, which is a counterpart to Sonic's world. Now this is a bit tricky, but all of these time-space continuum and parallel world stories are. Just know that going back in time creates another timeline identical to the first, with the same events leading up to the actual moment of time travel. Except this second timeline has a different course of events thanks to the changes made from the act of time travel, while the original timeline remains exactly as it would have without time travel. Hopefully I didn't lose you on that, but if you want to know more, just watch Justice League Crisis on Two Earths, or watch The Flash Season 2 and 3, or watch/read Dragon Ball Z's Cell Saga in its entirety. They explain it far better than I could, honestly. But all of this means that the events of Sonic 06 hasn't really been completely erased with the death of Solaris in its candle form. One world's future has changed because of it, but that's the current world the games take place in. There are alternate worlds / parallel dimensions / alternate universes where the events still take place and are cemented in those alternate timelines. What I'm trying to get at is this. Eggman Nega has had his world ruined by Iblis, and while that hasn't broken mentally stronger characters like Silver, Sonic, and Shadow, it has broken him. Even though he was already broken, this had to break him even further. And Eggman Nega is a dimension hopper. Don't forget, he's capable of visiting other worlds / other dimensions / other universes. Someone of his intellect and thirst for knowledge would find it too easy to go to these other worlds to escape his own horrifying world, if nothing else. Only these worlds were probably the ones created by Sonic 06's time traveling, meaning there's a good chance that these worlds have futures identical to Eggman Nega's homeworld. He probably saw multiple hellish alternate worlds where our heroes failed to stop some major catastrophe, and this made him come to the conclusion that there was no good future for any of these worlds. He had seen that every world would end up the same, a painful, woeful place with slow, agonizing deaths and hopelessness. No amount of time travel could change it. No amount of fighting could change it. All of his great skill and intellect, it all meant nothing. Nothing anyone did mattered, because it was all destined to be a flaming pile of despair and inescapable pain. So weighing on this clone psyche is not only the clone complex and the multi-generation cloning issues, and not only the line of work he's in, adding more mental damage and most likely dividing his best chances even more than they already were. He's put into this dystopian future where there is no hope, and people live in darkness and fear, barely surviving. And to top it all off, he can't even escape to other worlds because they share the same fate as his. What about this circumstance could make Eggman Nega retain even a shred of sanity or goodness? What chance did he possibly have to be anything or anyone else? The answer is he didn't have a chance, not even for a second. Which brings us back to his life's only ambition, his unrelenting desire to destroy the world. Looking at everything that's been stacked against him right from the start, doesn't it make sense now? Put yourself in his shoes for just a minute. Picture yourself with all of these factors and circumstances grinding what little sense of identity and sanity and goodness that you could possibly have into dust. But still you have this intellect, you have this skill to build whatever you want. You have this incredible determination to do something about this. Anything. What would you do? Now, if someone asks you, why do you want to destroy the world? Your answer / the real question will be, why not? Wouldn't you want to destroy a world that you don't belong in, is a flaming ruin of pain and suffering, and is destined to be that flaming ruin of pain and suffering no matter what anyone does? What options do you have left? Escape? You already tried that. Besides, where could a thing like you go to escape from the inner turmoil you feel every day? What would be the point You've got 10 years at best to live, and you most likely have used up 3 or 4 of those years already trying to get a handle on dimensional travel and time travel. But honestly, with all of this chaos surrounding his life, I think he came to the conclusion that life is endless suffering and painful agony. That's all he's seen life to be. That's all his life has been. So what does his twisted, brilliant mind concoct as a reason for continuing on in this life? Simple. He would end all life. How? Using his intellect and technological skills, he was going to make the pain stop. All the pain. To Eggman Nega, life equals pain and misery. So the opposite of pain and misery is peace and tranquility. Ergo, death is the only answer to this situation. So Eggman Nega decided to put every living thing out of its misery. He wants to destroy the world not just because, LOL, he's crazy, but because he truly believes it's the only thing worth doing. He wants to spare the world from the horrible future he's been born into. It's the best decision he has before him. Yes, he's aware that if he destroys the world in the past, he'll wipe himself from existence. But that's what he wants. He doesn't like his life, not even a little bit. Never assume for 1 second that the act of living matters to him. Eggman Nega believes that life equals pain, agony, and suffering. So death, being the complete opposite of life, would be complete and utter delight for him. He wants peace, he wants comfort, he wants rest, and he believes that death is the only way to achieve this. And isn't this a form of utopia that he himself would make happen? This is the most disturbing and demented thing you've ever heard? Most likely, yes, and I did warn you. But does this all add to his character? Oh my, yes it does. Because now everything about him makes sense. When you think about it, turning everything into a card is actually brilliant considering what Nega's plan really is. He wanted to destroy the world, but he didn't want to get rid of some important artifacts from that world. Which means he could have planned on not only destroying his world, but all the worlds in existence. Turning all of that stuff into cards is just for convenience, so he can easily carry massive items like the Master Emerald and stuff like that on his person. If he keeps these powerful items, he can most certainly use them later to destroy other worlds. And now the plan to turn the entire world into a card actually makes some sense. He probably was looking for the quickest and most painless way to destroy the entire world, instead of building a giant bomb or shooting a giant laser at it, which could definitely destroy the world, but not in a merciful fashion. In order to illustrate the point better, take this scene from Ant-Man. The bad guy kills this person with an unstable, shrinky gun thing, which instantly reduced the man into a small stain. Most people would have just shot him a couple of times, maybe slit his throat or something, slip him some poison, something conventional. But that leaves the opportunity for pain and suffering to be prolonged. This way, as soon as the trigger is pulled, the man's entire body is instantly dead. I'm quite sure that the man's brain didn't even register the pain before he died. Despite how ludicrous it is, the idea is that the man has an instant, painless death. This is the same thing, but with cards and on a global scale. Again, this is nuts, but so is Eggman Nega, so hey, it fits. So now that we completely understand him, we can finish this awful game. So in the final stage, the sadistic scientist is defeated and all of the hero's friends have been restored. And upon his defeat, this happens. Yeah, bummer for him. But now I can talk about the crazy camera at the center of this game's plot. camera is in line with the theme of this game, identities and the problems that arise without having them. A camera is something that can only make a flat two-dimensional copy of something real that already exists. A photo and an actual physical entity are basically incomparable. The physical entity is always better than the photo. Photo isn't truly alive, it's just an incomplete shell of the true world it's mimicking. Basically, a photo has no identity of itself. It can only ever be described as a picture of something real. A photo is almost useless in and of itself. What could be more perfect for our lowly clone to wield? What's more is the way that the camera works adds to the perfection. It forms a card out of whatever it takes a picture of, meaning it doesn't copy reality, it transforms it into a living photo. A reality capturing camera, not an image capturing camera. Something that Eggman Nega could be described as a thing that's supposed to be a useless reflection of something real has now bended reality to its liking, trapping the real inside of the fake. It's too incredible, the symbolism of it all. And to top it all off, the camera makes not simple photos, but cards. Cards are playthings. Things used for playing games and amusing people. He's turning living beings into his literal playthings that he can dispose of at any moment should he choose. And these cards, these tools of amusement, are fuel for a globally devastating camera. So not only are these real things turned into poor copies of themselves, these copies are playthings that will power a weapon that will convert an entire world into a pale imitation of itself, which Eggman Nega will put out of its misery. But in the end, it's Eggman Nega that is turned into a card, stuck in a poetically beautiful prison as a useless image. That's just, oh my lord, that's fantastic. I can't even right now. Needless to say, I love the camera's role in the story. It fits right with Metal Sonic, Sonic, Shadow, Silver, Dr. Robotnik, and it certainly fits with Eggman Nega. An image capturer that captures reality, making it into a flat image of what it used to be, taking identities and flipping them on their heads, just like our antagonist. Unfortunately, the problems this game has outweighs most of what it does right. Nevertheless, I love the complete understanding we get of Eggman Nega during its events, and it ends just as I'm screaming for more time with him. Which I will get in the next game, but just